Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Hercules, and I am the CEO and founder of Hercules Innovative Technology Solutions, or short for HITS. I want to welcome you to this evening's Opportunity Hub Black Women in Cyber Masterclass. This is our sixth masterclass, and I am privileged and honored to have the guest speaker that we have today, which is Tina Williams-Koroma, who is a boss, a leader in the cybersecurity space. She is someone I aspire to be like. She has created a blueprint that is hard to even get to the top of, and I cannot wait. I am, as you can see, thoroughly excited to jump right into this masterclass. It is going to be very valuable for everyone that is on here. And so, Tina, I thank you for your time. Absolutely. And if you wouldn't mind, let's just go straight in. If you wouldn't mind just sharing your background, what led you into the space of cybersecurity, and just your overall journey. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Michelle. The admiration is mutual. So I know that we're focused on me today, but certainly as a host, you have a very informed and experienced host here, moderator. I've been in the cyber field for over 21 years. I actually started my career as a software developer. So I'm a trained computer scientist. My undergrad degree is in computer science, a bachelor's of science in computer science. And I started my career at Lockheed Martin. I was in a leadership development program, which was a rotational program. And my first position was as a software developer. And I realized that I wasn't that passionate about software development. We had what's called peer reviews. And so that's where you would write your code and you would have these meetings where your peers would give you feedback on the code. And so I remember one peer review session in particular when I got feedback, Tina, the code works, et cetera. You can make it more efficient if you did, X. And I actually remember what that X is. I just won't go into all the details. But, what I do remember also thinking in my head was, okay, it works. So let's move on. But that isn't the mindset to have for like innovation, for wanting to do better, right? Like now as I, I'm running companies, what I really like to see in people is professional curiosity, those that want to like go a step beyond. And so, even though I didn't have a label for it then, I knew that I didn't have the professional curiosity to stay as a developer. And so thankfully, I was in a rotational program. So I got a chance to rotate into network security, approving, reviewing enterprise network connections to the Lockheed Martin external network. And I was like, oh, I like this. And then I got to rotate into doing some computer forensics work. And I did a bit of IT audit work, but that wasn't very fascinating to me. So I actually transitioned after that from Lockheed to Unisys, and I was a test manager doing a lot of load testing. So I was configuring, designing load testing tools to test websites to ensure that if they had a certain number of users, et cetera, that the site was designed to have the resilience necessary to sustain the load. And I also started doing some risk management framework, another risk assessment type of work and leading engineering teams. And then I went from Unisys to another small business co-owned and founded by a gentleman that I used to work with at Unisys. And so they were interested in me helping to port over what they did in the defense and intelligence sectors into the civilian sector. So I became their vice president of civilian and grew that division. And then that company became my first customer when I started a cyber services company, T-Secure. Yeah. Yes. And then I ran T-Secure full time for about 8 or 9 years. And we recently put into place, I appointed a new president just because I spun out of T-Secure a couple of product companies, one of which is a training platform, CISSP, on-demand training, and the other is Cytopoi, which is a venture capital and angel-backed venture. And so, it's important, especially with Cytopoi, those that invested in the company want to know that my full-time eye is on the ball where their money is. And so that's why we appointed a new president for T-Secure. But, I remain, owner and founder and CEO there. But yeah, so that's the context of, what I've done so far in my career. I, it wasn't.
And I'll just say this, Tina, and Tina said this so eloquently, but I want to note, Tina owns 3 cybersecurity related entities.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say she's one of my mentors and someone that I could always call on is because we do have a very similar journey in that, starting in the software development area, exploring cybersecurity from an audit perspective, and then just consulting to ensure that we have an understanding of information technology and cybersecurity as a whole. But again, I just wanted to hone in on the fact that Tina owns 3 cybersecurity entities in different forms. And so Tina, my question for you is, when you were at your employer and you decided to create T-Secure, what was it? Was that confidence builder, that light switch where you're like, you know what, I'm ready to do this on my own and I feel like I could do it? What was that?
I say that I'm an entrepreneur at heart because my first entrepreneurial venture was when I was 7. So I'm a military brat, and one of the military bases that my dad was stationed at, there was this golf course on the base. And there was also like this dirty little creek like near our house where they would often hit the golf balls. And so what I noticed is that none of the golfers were ever really going down to go get their golf balls. So I was like, you know what? We could, the little kids that don't mind getting dirty already, we're already here. Yeah. My initial concept was we can go retrieve those golf balls, wash them off, and sell them back with lemonade. And so that's what we did. So one Saturday we made $20, right? So that was like rich, right? 7 years old, $20. And, so we divided the pot and yeah, so I say that because, after that, I started having like pet sitting. I had a pet sitting business and babysitting business. And, the pet sitting business is where I really learned about stakeholder management, my parents being the major stakeholders. I'd have these dogs in the house, like crying and whining at night so nobody could go to sleep. And so that was a short-lived business, right? Like they shut that down.
Right. So the first business started at 7 and then the pet business.
I was probably like 9 or 10, like with the pet business and babysitting. And then out of college, I started a software development company with a friend of mine, but that was around the time where I realized I am not that passionate about software development. So, we kind of transitioned out of that, dissolved that company after, and, closed well with our clients then. I also had a nonprofit that was really focused on economic empowerment of the Black community worldwide. And a lot of that really first started on like honing in on a lot of what eats at our capital. And I think that's the over incarceration starting at children of, people in our community. And so like really taking a look at the economics of youth recidivism and really kind of taking a stab at that. But, running a nonprofit, going to law school part-time and being a manager in a cyber field at the time was like, I was like, okay, something's got to give. Yeah.
So tell me the balance, right? Because I think it's amazing that that you are a lawyer. That's another, again, we're talking about 3 entities and she's a lawyer in cyber. And so what was your mindset when you were like, you know what, I'm going to get my law degree and pursue cybersecurity and pursue like entrepreneurship? What was that?
There's something about me that I do notice this about myself, that the more I have to do, the more I get done. Like it's not good for me not to have that much to do, even though I say, oh, I need to slow down and I need blah, blah, like those seasons where I have 1 or 2 things on my plate, it's just like, I'm like, oh, I got time. I procrastinate. So, I think, with law school, It really is like two-pronged. So a lot of cyber is not just like the tech. A lot of it is like the policy, right? Like in the governance aspects and stuff around cyber. And so from that context, like my immediate interest, the way that I framed my law school experience was really around Homeland Security, cybersecurity, doing externships, working for credit while I was, as a part of the law school experience.
Sure.
But then I also just have like a passion, as I mentioned, like with that nonprofit, just really around civil rights, justice. So that'll probably be like a fourth career, right? To really like dust off the degree and kind of
necessary. Yes.
Yeah. So that was, it was kind of like, okay, this is a time in my life, like before I was married, before I had kids, like, whatever education I'm gonna, get, it's just like, let me go ahead and, lean in now. And so, I leaned in, there was another colleague of mine that was, talking about law school stuff, and it brought it back up in my memory. Like I said, I was going to do that at some point. So I was like, you know what? Now's a good time. So
let's do that.
Yeah.
So then another question, right? So for individuals that are just starting in their cyber career, they might already be established, or for those that are trying to shift in, those that are interested in pursuing entrepreneurship, or those, unfortunately, who may have been laid off with all of the major layoffs that are taking place right now.
Yep.
What's some suggestions on like just level set training or a level set understanding that they should know if they're truly trying to pursue cybersecurity, or if they're just interested in using their transferable skills to help support cyber?
Yeah. As I mentioned, cyber it's really broad, right? There's the technical aspects, but then there's also like the law and governance aspects. And one of the resources I'll be sure to share with you, Michelle, so you can share with all of the participants, is just an extrapolation of the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, NICE, where they've come up with different work roles, and the knowledge, skills, and abilities and tasks. So DHS NICS, another government agency, took what NICE did, and they've kind of broken it down into like a really accessible site where you can see a lot of the different possible work roles in cyber, and really drill down into what knowledge is associated with this work role, what skills, what abilities, what kind of day-to-day tasks. And what I advise on, and there's actually a free course on CISSKills.com. It's called Becoming a Cybersecurity Professional, and it references this NICE framework. But what I really recommend is going through and looking at those that list of knowledge, skills, and abilities for those different work roles, and seeing where you have that kind of knowledge, those kinds of skills, that kind of ability that may have come from your prior work experience, right?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of transferable skills when you're coming into the cyber field. There's so many different types of work roles that it is more likely than not that you have many transferable skills that you can start reflecting on your resume as you look at, pivoting into a career in cyber. And it also helps you determine what kind of like keywords and the like you can look for in your search for different types of positions as a part of your roadmap into progressive positions within the cyber field.
I'm so glad you mentioned the NICE framework, because yes, to your point, you have transferable skills regardless to what field you're in, right? And so I've shared this before in other master classes where sometimes a cybersecurity management team may be looking for someone who has a mathematic brain to help with coming up with calculations. They may actually be looking for someone who has an English background or history background in order to be able to put communications together cleanly and strategically move elements. And so, but the NICE framework is really looking at some of the elements and job responsibilities that are out there. And in this wave of upskilling, reskilling, there's an opportunity to kind of tap into these different opportunities and see what makes sense for what you like. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
Yes.
Are there any additional certs or trainings that you suggest for those that are in the cybersecurity space?
Yeah. So I certainly certifications, because certifications are kind of like good window dressing and icing. And I don't mean to undervalue them, but
You're right.
there's like a trend in employers really wanting to know that beyond the certification that you have an understanding of the technology or like the role that you're applying to be a part of, right? Like so many times you can have individuals that have a lot of certifications and a lot of letters associated with those certifications. But then when they come onto the job and you put them in front of a computer, it's underwhelming to
Sure.
employers, right? Like, and so, and that's same also, you know, with education sometimes. And me, you know, with 3 degrees, I'm certainly a big proponent of education, and 2 certifications, I am a proponent of them. But I do want to set the context first of, you know, making sure that you have or pursue, if you've got to make an investment of like time and money, then I would say like make sure that your investment of time and money is towards getting hands-on experience related to that certification that you're pursuing. That's where I
Agreed.
would say, you know, put your time and attention first, right? To be sure that you have that understanding. And then, you know, pursue the certification as evidence of the skills that you already have, right? Instead of, you know, getting the certification, but then not having like the meat behind it. I think really well positions you. And I think you'll, you know, feel, sometimes people talk a lot about like an imposter syndrome or whatever, right?
Yes.
Like not
Yeah.
feeling like you belong. But I think that, you know, one of the ways, at least internally, to overcome that kind of conversation with yourself is to know within yourself how you have applied those skills and that knowledge and what you've been able to accomplish, even if it's like personal projects at home, right? Like you get your router from Verizon or from Comcast. Don't leave it on the default settings. You know, go through the process of hardening your own router at home, or, you know, for all the devices that you have in your home. How do you, or social media sites that you have, right? Like there's a lot of ways in which you can, you know, practice. And then there's a lot of sites also, you know, Michelle, be sure to connect with you. Just online, free, like cyber, you know, hackathon, you know, sites as well, where you can do online competitions and the like, and kind of try out your skills. So yeah, just make sure to, yeah. So specific certifications, you know, Security Plus is a broad one, especially if you have interest like in government work. So that's one. SANS has a lot of, you know, highly reputable, recognized certifications, depending upon the type of, you know, role that you might want to pursue. If you want to be an ethical hacker, or, you know, if you want to go into more of the security engineering, you know, roles. The CISSP, the one that I have, that was really great for when you know, are interested in kind of transitioning from maybe like hands-on tech to like more of like a management, you know, sort of role, right? Like, so a CISSP, I always say it's like, you know, a mile wide and an inch deep with regards to what they're testing for. But it's really looking at, you know, how well do you understand how all the pieces or components of cyber really fit together. And then there's, you know, like, you know, kind of like a business or management kind of context to the CISSP. So those are just a few, you know, examples and, you know, certification bodies that have, you know, recognizable and respected certifications for security.
Those are excellent examples. And for those that are trying to take notes, what we'll do after the masterclass, we do a recap of everything that Tina has suggested. So all the sites and opportunities will be sent in some marketing material directly after the masterclass. But I know in a number of the mentorship one-on-ones that I've had, there's been a question on apprenticeship, internships, or just job opportunities. And so since Tina is the boss of her own 3 entities, she actually does have some job opportunities. And so I'd like for her to talk about some of the opportunities, and if it, piques anyone's interest on here, please definitely pursue the opportunity. But Tina, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So talent is definitely a treasure. And, on the other side of this, there's this site, cyberseek.org, that, lists like all the open cyber positions. The last time I checked it, across the nation, there are about 700,000 open cyber jobs.
Probably more than that.
Yes. Those are the ones that are like reported and out there. So, certainly a great burgeoning field. So with my services company, T-Secure broadly is focused on helping customers to build and maintain effective cyber programs. So that includes like the governance aspect, what kind of frameworks they should be using, down to the technology recommendations and assisting them in putting those technology components in place. Two of the positions are for information system security officers. So these are positions with the federal government. They're actually based in Colorado. So in the Colorado Springs area. The work involves looking at government systems. In this case, it's helping the government to maintain effective cyber programs, specifically at the information system level. So looking at the controls that are in place, are the controls appropriate? Looking at the documentation, is what's implemented from a technical perspective following what the documentation shows, et cetera. So we're looking for a mid-level and a senior level information system security officer. So,
yes.
Certainly I'll pass along my information if anyone is interested in. These do require top secret clearances, so I will put that out there. But if you might be interested, please let me know. For Cytopoi is a software in SaaS, software as a service company. And the specific problem that Cytopoi is solving is providing a quick and efficient way to do machine learning driven functional testing to get a quick answer to the question, if I make these security changes to my system, what will the functional impact be? A lot of times organizations delay in making timely security updates because they're concerned about what might break. So Cytopoi provides the ability for organizations to basically test drive the changes before they touch production and possibly break something.
Mm-hmm.
Cytopoi is a venture capital angel investor backed company. We are, young, scrappy. So we do have some unpaid internships available. We are actually looking for 10 interns. Those that have, different types of skills, C#, desktop, help desk management type skills, Azure, AWS, skills. And, the great opportunity is that, with a startup, a lot of times you get some really great, broad, quick exposure just because the nature of a startup is that, personnel are having to wear many hats. And so, the exposure you would get is to artificial intelligence, machine learning, training models, functional testing, security testing, cloud engineering type work, desktop management. So there's a lot of different kind of skills and exposure you can get in participating with the internship. And the great thing is one of my co-founder, who's also the president of engineering for Cytopoi, would be a great mentor. He's been around the field for a really long time as well on the infrastructure and engineering side of the house. And so he's worked at really large outfits like Microsoft and DLA Piper. He and I met when we were working at Unisys. And I was like, hey, what are you doing? You want to come help me build a startup? So we've reconnected back for that. So those are the opportunities currently available with the entities, two of my ventures.
And so with that, just alone, as Tina mentioned, an internship, do not sleep on an internship, because as technology is evolving and changing, having that firsthand experience to work for a startup and with Tina's leadership and team, it's a resume builder, right? So a lot of these experiences, if you don't have the background in it, but you're studying and you have the aptitude to learn, and really, as Tina said, you have to have a passion towards the space. But yes, please definitely look into that. There's also a number of opportunities with Opportunity Hub as well when it comes to training. I know one of the next steps in conjunction with the Black Women in Cybersecurity Masterclasses is to create training and certification badges as well. So there's a plethora of opportunities for you to expand your skill set, and then also get an internship. So Tina, thank you for, and then yes, Tina also, I think she mentioned her CISSP, and we'll be working in partnership with that too for in the future as well. And so so yes, with that, I know that was a lot for me. I'm like, whoo.
Yeah.
So Tina, with that, I do want to talk about work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
So I know for me, I'm single, still looking for my Prince Charming, no children. And I know at times when I call you, you're like ready to take a call, but you have your 2-year-old on your side. And how do you balance, just everything? You also just got appointed to a new board of directors position, and you hold numerous spots. And we'll talk about that next.
Yeah.
But we will go into that. But like, how do you balance it all?
Yeah, I think for me, my faith, in Christ is really core to that.
Amen.
I think that it takes faith to rest. So even, I really realized this when I described the experience of being in law school, working full time, like as a manager, and then having like this nonprofit. And one of the things I was just burning like energy, on both ends. And I was like, this is not sustainable. And, for me, like grades were like really important. Like I was high school valedictorian, like this like intense scholarship in college. And so, like my first semester in law school, I think my GPA was like 2.8 something. I would like, my mind was like, I was one email sent away from like, I quit. Like this is not
too much.
Right. And gratefully, I'm so thankful to the manager that I had at Unisys at the time. His dad was a judge, his brother was an attorney, and he told me about like the whole experience in grades and how you have to consider them in law school. So that kept me from pushing the I quit button to the of the law school at the time. But also what I realized is that, well, I still do need to change my approach though. And
sure.
So, what I did is I said, I need a Sabbath day, like a true day of rest. And so
yes.
What I instituted was like, whatever I didn't have done by 11:59 p.m. on Saturday night would not get picked back up. The soonest it would be picked back up is Monday morning. Like I would take all of Sunday, no work, just, time for me. And, you might think that, oh, okay, well, you didn't quite get to read like the full chapter, or you didn't quite, get to do X, Y, and Z, that things will get worse. But no, they got better. And I actually exceeded my GPA goal, for law school then, right after taking that break. And so, even now I try to continue, leaning into that, where like sometimes I just feel like I'm done.
Sure.
That's it. That's and just even recently, I started feeling really tired. I wasn't feeling sick. I didn't have like a cold or sneeze or anything like that, but I was just tired. And it was kind of like my body's warning shot of like, okay.
Or mental exhaustion.
Yes.
Like burnout and mental exhaustion is real. And so I'm so glad that you're like talking about boundaries and rest, because It's necessary.
It is. It is. I was just like, you know what? I'm doing like this week for the first few days this week. I did work on my bed. I was off camera for meetings so I could stay sitting there. Like, so while I was still working some, I was in the most comfortable environment. So I didn't have like the added stress of just, being on camera and face-to-face communications and stuff. So, I think it's like rest is really like a part of it. And also it is, I am a wife, I am a mom of an almost 2-year-old, but, I still play like soccer on the weekends. I lead like a very competitive, like women's soccer team. I play on it, and driving to the game and playing and driving home from the game, like that is my time, right? Like I love like the rush of competitive sport, right? Like I've played sports since I was 7, right?
Sure.
Wasn't really for me, it appears. So, I think it's like in making sure that like your entire identity is not like wrapped up in one particular role that you have.
I love that.
Right? Like you are a whole person. You're a whole, I was a whole person before I was married. My identity was not my job either, right? Like sometimes like, you can be like single and everybody thinks like, oh, well, you could work longer hours. No, I can't.
No, thank you. No, yes.
Right. I may not have like a husband and kids at home yet, but I have a life and there's in this job, right? Like, so I think at every age and stage in life, like, again, back to my faith, like my identity is in Christ, like my it's like who I am, my gifts and talents, like I am a whole person, no matter which season of life that I'm in. And I think that like, that's really important to like keep in mind so that you do keep those boundaries and like one area of life isn't able to like, over creep, right? And kind of, and take over. So I think those are some of the things, and you can't do it all, right? Like I'm just going to be clear about that. Like you need to decide like what you're strong at, like what you do well at, and what you don't have pride about, like what you just aren't that good at. There are certain things where I just know, like I need to pass this over. I will spend 3 times the amount of time and it will be 10 times the worst outcome because that is not my lane, right? Like
but there's a skill in there's a skill in knowing that, right? Because I do feel like a lot of times, or at least for myself, you're going to keep going until you can't, right? And in another master class, we talked about the importance of having a tribe, having mentors, having individuals that you could bounce things off of, right? So if you can't do that pulse check for yourself, having someone that has been in your shoes to say like, you know what, you can pass that off, pay for this, or maybe this just isn't your lane and you're better suited doing something else. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's a pill that you need to hear from someone if you can't digest it yourself.
Absolutely. So I see that there's like in the chat that there's some questions from the audience. I don't know if you're teeing those up, Michelle, or if,
sure. Let's see. Nikki, I don't know if you see anything that you want to bring, and Nikki is actually the doing our back end marketing. If you see any specific questions for Tina, if you could pull it up to the stage, that'd be great.
I will work as a free intern. Okay, Deborah, awesome. My information is going to get provided, so I definitely want to get connected with you. Okay, so this content is great. Love hearing your story and curious about everyone's story in the chat too. I'm wondering, how do we stay connected after today?
So there is a Slack channel to be able to stay connected as well. And as mentioned, everything discussed here, if there are specific links, that will be provided. We also have Opportunity Hub is celebrating their 10 years. And they have created an app. And so you can actually access all of the master classes and helpful information there. Any additional channel creation that will be sent out in some marketing material at a later point in time.
What if I'm trying to get any way for my transferable skills? Let's see. What if I'm trying to get anyway from my transferable skills?
I think probably away from my transferable skills. So that would probably be where you would really try to focus on where you want to pivot to, and then do training, get certs, look for intern opportunities where you could still leverage your transferable skills, but then you could just say, hey, I have pursued a position in AI/ML, or in cloud computing, or whatever it may be, if there's a specific area that you want to hone in on. But Tina, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably skills that you want to get away from, but there's probably also transferable skills that you like to lean into, right? Like, so to Michelle's point, I'd identify, which of those skills do you really, do you like? There's typically in any job that we do, there's certain things that we like and certain experiences that we got. That we'd like to continue, and other ones that we don't. So I would make sure like you spend some time looking at like, well, what kind of things do I really want to lean into, and look for opportunities, and knowledge, skills, and abilities with language around that that you want to, for what you want to keep and what you want to lean into.
So Tina, with that, let's pivot into, there's some key terms going out there right now that you may see in a job description: zero trust, multi-factor authentication, digital transformation. Everyone is kind of using that differently. Your approach to cloud, or how industries are moving from like a hard data center to now like cloud, or what are some of the key terms that, someone that is trying to pursue a position in cyber and they're looking at these new job descriptions, what are some of the key terms that they should be aware of that, they may actually have experience in, but they're just not familiar with the term?
Yeah. I think a lot of these terms are, they all have underlying like technology that's associated with them. Like a lot of digital transformation is really about, to your point, moving from physical like equipment or infrastructure to the cloud. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, so when you see that term, if you have cloud related skills, if you have skills with like virtualization, like, even if it's in, like VMware or something like that, hypervisor, even though that's not, specifically cloud, just kind of that if you have skills in like helping an organization move from like physical equipment just to like, virtual machines, right? Like that skill in itself, and like being able to do that transition is, transferable, even when you start thinking about organizations that, want to move to the cloud, right? Like from physical machines. So, like that's something I think you could really look at, zero trust, architecture and stuff like, if you've been a security engineer or administrator, when you start thinking about just some of the native ways in which like the internet wasn't really designed with security in mind initially, right? Like, so if you start thinking about, just some of the principles of how security and like the internet and technology work now, and all the things that from a security perspective had to be layered on top to, provide that security. If you start thinking about, well, what would it look like if we didn't necessarily assume that a party could be trusted, right? Like you think of just how things are designed now in a way that assumes a certain amount of legitimacy or, like trustability, and just start unwrapping that like in your mind. So if you've already kind of worked in that field and you understand like technology and the OSI model and how communication works and what's required, like just really start, like understanding like your experience and skills in that way. And I think that helps to start understanding like the direction that zero trust, right, is trying to take you.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's a perfect analogy, because a lot of times people don't understand the difference between multi-factor, zero trust. That perfect.
Right. Yeah. And also really focus on like creativity, analytical ability, like data,
critical thinking.
so much data. Yes, like. any experience that demonstrates that you are a critical and creative thinker is really, really, really going to serve you well, right? Like, even if it wasn't specifically applied to cyber initially, your ability to say that this was like a problem that I was presented, and like, if you came up with just like a phenomenal way to solve a problem efficiently at scale, that was like like that kind of brain, it's hard to train that in, right?
Absolutely.
Like, it's really hard. Like, what class can you take to like train that into a person, right? Like, so anything that you can, like, that you've done in your career, like as an example, when you're in interviews, if you can, capture it in a succinct way in a resume or a cover letter, that kind of stuff is gonna, like, that's the kind of minds that we need in cyber, creative minds that can, come up with these solutions to problems. Yeah.
And I want to hone in on that, because that is a valid point. A lot of times, if you are able to see an inefficient process, especially since we are in an area of transformation, really, the digital transformation, cybersecurity transformation, and really identifying like the gaps in our skills. If you're able to really hone into an area where you can do your job in a more efficient and effective manner by utilizing automated solutions or moving from a manual process or something that's mundane or old, check right there.
Yes. That's a highly, highly transferable skill. So I want to give that as an example. Critical thinking, analytical thinking, creativity. Those are not specifically technical skills, but they are highly transferable. I'm working with somebody, now that we brought in with CISSP, and while her background, isn't, tech specifically, et cetera, she comes out of like a healthcare, kind of background and progressive leadership roles, but just how she's been able to like lean in and provide such value in like the year that she's, been like here, her ability to look at data and to translate it and to understand it quickly and to pick up on concepts and to, write it back. She helped to win our first prime federal contract. We've been doing a lot of, subcontract work, but, just with, again, her ability to digest and communicate the information. She's an English major, right? Out of a healthcare field. But like her analytical ability, she's able to take like the tech and the, all the stuff that we've done in the past and digest that down into a way that, readers of our proposals and the like are able to resonate.
Right.
So, that's just one example of, a transferable skill that is not specifically tech, but is very, very valuable.
So Tina, I'll throw this out there too. I think in general, so let's say if you're new in the space and trying to transition into it, or you're experienced in the space, I think it's really important to always be the best that you can be in whatever you're trying to pursue. Yes. Right? And if you have that mindset of, this is what I love to do, this is what I'm passionate about doing, this is mine, I own it. I am the best in it. That you kind of have to have that mindset versus I'm looking for an opportunity. Please, no, you have to be able to come in and say, this is something I know I could do, and you need me.
Exactly.
And so, Tina, I don't know if that's something that you want to expand upon, like from a mindset that you also need to have when pursuing a position in cyber.
Yeah. It's, pursuing a position in cyber, or even pursuing a raise. Like I think that it's very self-awareness and self-knowledge is also a very valuable skill and an asset that you can have. And so yes, accountability and ownership. I stay away from using expletives. I want to let my Christ shine through, but like one thing that I say is like, own your ish, right?
That's right.
Like I want people that are professionally curious, and they own it. Like they wholly own it. They own it when it's not quite going the way that they thought it would. They tried something out. I think it's just really powerful. And you certainly have to, align yourself with organizations that have a culture that, tends in this way. But like the kind of culture I would prefer, like a mistake, own the mistake, tell me about it early. When things don't seem to be panning out the way that you think, like it is your problem to solve, right? It is yours, right?
Yes.
Own that, right? And I think, confidence is another thing that is like a very valuable asset. You don't need to be cocky. In fact, cocky does the most talking and posturing and stuff. Confidence doesn't really need to be that chatty,
right? At all. Yes.
Like, yeah, it's just, just like get it done. But when you do have an opportunity, like don't downplay or sell yourself short, right? Like be clear about, this is what I know. This is, what I'm good at. This is, my position on it. So, like be confident in who you are. And I think that's something that, is also like an internal, sort of thing, right? Like it's, really lean into that. Like I've had people, like one guy, I walked into a room one time and he like literally just asked me like, what are you doing in this meeting? And I was like, oh, such and such invited me. And I sat right down, right in the chair and waited for such and such to come. And he can tell you himself, but I'm here because I'm supposed to be here. That's why.
Exactly.
Right. Like, so, and not even getting defensive about it, why are you here? Because he invited me, and sit down and, just, be you and own it. Also, when you're negotiating for a salary, one guy, like early in my career, he tells me this story and he said, there were two people that were working in a position. One of them negotiated for a salary that he thought was commensurate with his skills, did the research, understood what the position involved and, and the like, and he negotiated for that. Right. And the other guy didn't. He didn't negotiate for himself. Who do you think was happier? They were both doing the same job after that. Who was happier in the job? Right.
Exactly.
Greater satisfaction. So, it's not always the case that like an employer is able to meet exactly where you are. We're in a startup now and, certainly our rates are below my rate, everybody's rate, is largely like below market, but there's other things that you get out of it. But, I also know that, okay, once we get to this place with the company, one of our goals is like, this is the timing. This is where we were going. This is when we plan to try to get, like rates to market rate. Right. But they also got like some, equity, right? Like, so that's a part of the compensation. That's a part of, what comes with like a startup, like you may not get it like in the salary immediately, but if you believe in the vision, you're working behind it. It's always a risk, right? But hey, like the bigger reward is that you have ownership in a piece of something that you believe in, and that payout is going to be much greater than, maybe not getting exactly what you want. So, but, even in that case, like it's fine to say that, hey, this is where I am. This is what I'd like. And at least it's like on a leader's radar, right? For, where you are and what you think your value and worth is.
You're 100% right. Absolutely right. So I know we pulled a question up, and so I do want to touch upon that really quick. I think it was a question pertaining, yes. So my suggestion for this is that there's so many STEM programs that are out there right now with federal agencies, big tech. I would suggest having that student pursue, if the student already knows what lane in cyber. So like if the student's interested in the doing audit reviews, like cybersecurity audit reviews, to pursue that lane, or if the individual is interested in cybersecurity operations. So a lot of what Tina's talking about, the ins and outs of doing penetration testing, vulnerability scanning, being aware of different threat vectors. There's a number of nonprofit and then for-profit STEM opportunities out there. I would suggest that, and then also internships within the high school level as well. Tina, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And I would say, I mentioned earlier, like online free challenges. You can get involved with like, different capture the flag or hackathon type events. So I would definitely suggest that. Also, look within like the high school curriculum. Like I know for the state of Maryland, with the access bill that passed a few years ago, there was a requirement to integrate a computing education course in every from elementary to high school. And so I would say make sure that you understand what the cyber or tech options are for classes. A lot of times community colleges have also partnered with high schools to provide like hands-on like Cisco training or other types of technical training. Yeah. So in Maryland, there is a site, Cyber for All, and that actually cyber, the number 4, and then all. If you do a Google search for that, you'll see a lot of different things that come up related to that. But a lot of those are like resources that you can get access to. Gen Cyber camps, GEN Cyber. Those are, cyber camps that the federal government partners. It's like with like different academic institutions and stuff a lot of times to put on these camps. And so those are camps that are available like typically like over the summer for, high school students to get involved in.
Excellent. Excellent information. So this will probably be the last question that we'll take because I know we're encroaching on the end. But Gina, I could start with this and then I'll pivot very quickly to you. Gina covered a number of skills that were helpful for me if Gina and I have a very similar background in starting on the app development side, transitioning to cybersecurity on the compliance side, and then what helped me was a combination of my soft skills as well as my technical skills and staying on top of the latest technology trends and being able to speak to all levels. So being able to speak to the tech folks and because I was an app developer, I knew what they were talking about and I could actually code, right? But then also being able to talk to the senior executives that do not want to know any of the weeds, they just want to know the bottom line. And so for me, I would say the most helpful skill for me was being able to communicate at all levels and to know enough to be in all of the rooms and speak confidently on the subject matter.
Yeah. I don't, I think with the skills that I mentioned, with the new environment, I just think if I had to sum it up, I would say that like confidence, and that is a skill. I think it's something that you probably just have to like practice. A lot of it's mental, right? Like, so I think that you just have to like know what know what you don't know and be okay with that. Like don't like a certain insecurity because you don't know everything, because nobody knows everything, and anybody like trying to, posture like they do, they don't, those that this field is probably more white male dominated and things like that. But, what I notice is, they also like a lot of them don't mind. I don't know. They will be some of the quickest ones to say, I don't know. That's not my area. Right.
Immediately.
Right. And still be confident. Confident is all get out about like their position, their title, what they're getting paid. But, I don't know that I have heard, I don't know from more commonly than from, those that are like majority in this field. Right. Like, so don't feel bad about saying, I don't know, but I can find out. Like if that's something that that I need to, like, I'm fine with that. I don't know offhand, but let me run that down. Right. So I think just having confidence, whether you fully know the answer or not, again, back to that analytical skill, like if you're able to like research and find it, like that skill is more valuable than, like acting like you have all the answers. Somebody that knows how to get the answers is just as valuable, if not more valuable than someone that, pretends to know it all. Yeah.
Yes. I echo that. Just know your worth and be honest, but then also, bring what you bring to the table. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So Tina, we're not going to end without listing your accolades.
Yeah.
And so Tina is on a number of board of directors and positions, and it's not easy to get on the board of a number of board of directors, particularly when you're an African American or minority owned business. And so I do want you to go into details pertaining to like the latest board that you joined. I will say for me, I'm extremely proud because it's empowering to see someone that looks like me, someone who is natural, someone who is authentically themselves, succeeding, and having people ask them to sit at the table to influence their cybersecurity posture. So I'll let you go with that.
Yeah. So, the Tipton Airport Authority is the latest board that I've been on, and that's actually the first paid board position.
Wow.
So I'm really excited. While I'm not like an airport SME, one of the things that really attracted me to that board is the stuff that they're focused on doing in the community, right? Yeah. Like airport manager and airport, like maintenance tech, like that's a really like high demand field. Like it's, a lot of those that work airport maintenance and the like, they're graying out. It's not a field that, is being pursued a lot, but isn't like, there's so many like opportunities even there, right? Like, so whether it was like my specific area of tech or not, like anything that, positions like me to help, bring exposure to opportunities to a STEM related field, like I'm all in. And so I had a colleague of mine who I've worked with quite a bit. Tipton Airport Authority requires that, anyone on the board be a resident of Anne Arundel County, right? Like, so she knew that I had, lived in the county and kind of connected me in, that way that kind of gave like a way or a door in. So one thing I will say about that is, don't discount who you're ever networking with and things like that, that's right? True. Like very slow to burn bridges, whether somebody is above you, below you, whatever. Yes. Like people have long memories and, it's just like treat people with respect, operate with integrity.
Yes.
And a lot of times like opportunities will find you. People remember, like, I don't know who quoted this, but it's like people may not like remember what you said, but they will always remember the way you made them feel. So if people like feel around you, like they can't trust you, like, whatever that is. So that's one thing that I would say just around like, and keep networking. Like there might not be an initial and look to give before like take, right? I heard that on a previous panel that I was just on. And I like that notion, even with an accelerator program that I'm in now, their mantra is #give first, right? Like that's Techstars. And I like that. And that's, that's also the way I've like lived my life. There might not be an immediate today like give back, but don't give like with the, what can you give me? Right. Like just, do what you can for people at every level and stage that you are. The higher you go, the more you're able to do for people. But at every stage, at every level, there is always someone coming behind you.
This is true.
So I would say focus on that, other, accolades and stuff. I think it's, there is an organization, I think like Board Z and like Chief and some others that are really like working on, and focusing specifically on providing opportunities for women in particular to get more board positions. But also in that context, see yourself as an asset, like your perspective is one that is diverse and provides value. So you as as a Black woman with a tech background or with certain skills, there's a certain perspective that you bring that has value in our largely international kind of operating sort of world. So again, have that confidence in knowing like what value you can bring to a board to provide that organization with additional direction and perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as you guys can see, this is why I was so excited about this masterclass. I want to thank you, Tina, one, for dropping so many gems. The information that Tina shared here is just priceless. And so I thank you for that. I also want to say that I know that on our Eventbrite, I think it only says that there's 6 master classes. We will be extending the master classes, so there'll be more to come for that. As I mentioned, there will be some training, certification badge offerings. We're also planning on expanding the mentorship offerings. What I'm looking to do is to bring in at least 10 women in the cybersecurity space to provide mentorship on a specific frequency. So look out for that as well. If you have any questions, there's office hours. Tina, if Tina doesn't have any time, but I can funnel, I can funnel questions to her through our office hours. Again, Tina, one of the last times we spoke, you said you were in a season of always being grateful.
Yes.
And before closing the day,
yes.
You always talk about things that you're grateful for. So I just want to say I'm extremely grateful that you joined us for this masterclass. I'm extremely grateful for OHUB for offering this opportunity to share this type of knowledge. And I'm extremely grateful for this to continue. And so with that, I don't know if there's anything that you want to share that you're grateful with in closing.
Yeah, I'm thankful for having met you, Michelle. Absolutely,
Same.
Nikki. Yeah, I live for this stuff. Like, I love being able to provide, value to our community, and just I want us to rise and win together. I really do. Like that.
Same.
Like my the impetus for like why I work so hard and stick with it, et cetera, is because I definitely want to be an example that it can be done. And, I want economic empowerment in our community.
Yes.
I really think that provides a lot of choices. So you all just showing up here with great interest, with great questions, is just like, that is fuel for me. So I'm definitely, thankful to see that we have such, hustlers and such great potential and bright minds in our community.
Thank you. Thank you again. And thank you all for attending. We'll be back April 27th. So thank you.